The security guard said it with a smirk. "Sorry, sir, your name isn't on the list." He didn't look at the tablet again, didn't even pretend to check twice, just smirked at me like he'd been waiting for this moment, like someone had told him what to do. Behind him, the flashes of cameras, laughter, and polished glass poured out into the street. The banner above the entrance gleamed. Marin and Hall Law Associates, grand opening. My wife's sister's new firm. My wife stood inside, smiling in that careful, curated way that looks effortless only when practiced too often. She was next to her sister, arm-linked, their champagne glasses raised for the photographer. And the guard? He laughed under his breath. That was the moment I knew. Not that something was wrong, but that something had been arranged. No one humiliates a man like that by accident. I looked at him, silent, still, while the world inside shimmered behind tinted glass. I didn't argue. I didn't demand entry. I just smiled once, faintly, and stepped aside. If they thought I'd beg for entry, they'd forgotten who wrote their first paycheck. Because Marin and Hall Law Associates was mine, entirely, legally, and quietly. Every light, every glass, every breath of champagne in that building was paid for by my company. And that guard? He'd just locked the owner out of his own house. The next morning, she pretended nothing happened. Coffee, robe, soft hums under her breath as if she hadn't stood across the room from me the night before, pretending not to see me. When I came home late that night after the party, she was already asleep, or pretending to be. Her phone was on the charger beside her bed, face down. Notifications muted, always muted lately. I stared at her for a long moment, the rise and fall of her chest, the practiced peace on her face. A lawyer's face. A liar's, too. She'd spent months talking about her sister's firm, how much work it took, how stressed they were, how late the nights went. I'd believed her. I'd even offered to help fund the launch. She refused, of course. Said it would look like favoritism. Said she wanted her sister to earn it on her own. So I used a shell company. Quietly, efficiently, no trace back to me. I just wanted to help. That was before I noticed the text. A preview that flashed across her phone one evening when she leaned over to kiss me goodbye. "He'll never know. See you at the office." From Marin, her sister. It was the first tremor under the surface. Not enough to break anything, but enough to know the ground wasn't steady anymore. I started small. I had access to the firm's internal accounts. My silent investment allowed that. So I checked, late at night, alone. 3 large transfers from the firm's startup fund to a personal account. Her name attached. Not Marin's, hers. I didn't ask, I didn't accuse. Instead, I watched. The call she took on the balcony, voice lowered but eyes bright. The way she smiled at her phone, that quick flutter of fingers when she typed. Once, I followed her. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to. She said she had a late meeting with the firm's PR consultant. I knew the schedule. There was no meeting. She went to a hotel, the kind people don't use for meetings. She didn't notice me. I didn't get out of the car. I just watched her enter through the glass doors, her reflection passing over mine. And something inside me, something warm, finally went cold. I called my lawyer that night, quietly, asked for a copy of the firm's ownership records. And while the city slept, I sat in my office staring at the documents. Every signature, every clause, every hidden favor disguised as partnership. I wasn't looking for proof anymore. I was counting the exits. The report arrived 2 days later. Her sister's firm wasn't hers at all. It was mine. Every inch, every cent. But somewhere along the way, they'd redrafted the paperwork, removed my company's signature, filed a clerical correction. She'd forged my authorization. Not for money, for ownership. They had taken everything I built and written me out of it. And that humiliation at the door, that was the final flourish.
The private joke between two women who thought they'd finally buried me under their own names. I didn't confront her right away. I waited until Sunday breakfast. Calm, ordinary, light pouring through the kitchen window. She laughed at something meaningless. I placed the folder on the table. She glanced down. The laughter died. No shouting, no scene. Just paper between us. Her eyes flicked from the documents to mine. Panic, calculation, the flicker of a lawyer trying to think faster than guilt. "Where did you get this?" she whispered. I didn't answer. I watched the mask collapse. She reached for words, but none came. The silence was so complete it felt surgical. The firm had planned another event that week, a follow-up celebration for their first major client. I attended this time. Walked through the same doors, past the same guard. This time, he didn't stop me. He stood straighter, as if someone had told him who I really was. Inside, the laughter dimmed when I appeared. Marin froze mid-sentence. My wife turned pale. I didn't raise my voice, didn't make a scene. I simply handed the manager an envelope, the official transfer notice returning the firm's ownership to my name. The documents were final, legal, unassailable. They had nothing left to say. I looked at my wife once, one last look that wasn't anger, wasn't hate, just finality. Then I turned to the guard. "You can cross my name off the list again," I said. "I won't be back." And I walked out. Behind me, I heard Marin whisper something broken, and my wife's voice crack, soft, desperate, human. But I didn't turn around. They wanted power. They could keep it, stripped, hollow, and heavy. I moved out that night. No note, no goodbye. The firm still stands, my name hidden in the paperwork, invisible but absolute. They work for me now, unknowingly. Every case, every win, every dollar they touch circles back to the hand they tried to erase. Poetic in its own way. Sometimes I drive past the building. I see the lights, the parties, the smiles, but I feel nothing. They think victory is applause. I learned it's silence, and silence is mine.